Well, boa noite, Munson here at 9 o'clock Portugal time on the last day of Carnival. I think everyone is kind of exhausted. They may have reached peak Carnival already. It's been a public holiday here and people will be partying very hard, thanks to the gentleman on the left of my screen who granted everybody a public holiday. I've had a traditional Carnival snooze, which has left me waking up thinking it's already Wednesday morning. So I'm in quite an interesting headspace and here to discuss Portugal's property pickle tonight, because I think it's quite an important feature of Portuguese life and Portuguese politics. And here to join me to do that is my dear friend and your dear friend, Vitor Costa. Good evening from the north of Portugal tonight. How are you, Vitor?
Yes, that is correct, and it is required by law that you have pickles when buying a home.
Are they supplied by the agent, your buyer's agent, your real estate agent, or the vendor?
I usually bring my own pickle. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we should change the subject. That's totally not accurate, not
It's right.
real advice. So do not take it, please.
Okay, excellent. Right, let me backtrack a little bit in case people are, which
We
quite
should.
right.
We should just
Yeah,
erase the last 2 minutes from your memories, guys.
All right, have you got a little pen or effect we can do that with, like Men in Black, just to rewind for people. He's actually got one of those. He bought it on eBay. No, actually, it's with a friend, Vitor. I think you might have.
It's not here right now. Maybe at the end of the show.
Okay. Just in case you are thinking, what on earth am I watching? What was that all about? If I duck down a little
Maybe you
bit.
can use the big one.
No! Ouch! What? Where am I? What's my name? This is the Portugal Business Club. And arguably, not very business-like so far. However, I would also argue very business-like because we started off last week, didn't we, Vitor, with some redefining business, really. I don't think you would describe yourself. If you could set the scene, you're no ordinary business person. You are a businessman in your own way, but you're not cut in that traditional mold, are you?
Definitely not. And I only like working with crazy people. So wink, wink, nudge,
What?
nudge.
Right, okay. If only I'd known that, I'd have.
No, but seriously though, it is. I always kind of felt like, you know, black sheep is that common term, right? But ever since I was a kid, I felt like there was people would see me different, and I would do and think different. But I never saw that as a negative. It just took me like 27 years until I figured out how to use it to my advantage and to actually provide value to people's lives.
Yeah, it's kind of tough, that, isn't it, when it takes so long? Although I think that's changing because I would claim that it took me even longer to find out that it was okay to be different. So I'm pleased for you that it only took 27 years, and let's hope for the youngsters coming through that it's even easier for them, and that diversity of thought is encouraged. And actually, given that this is the Portugal Business Club, a little spin-off from Good Morning Portugal, it's quite a good world to go into, isn't it, for the people who can't fit in as square pegs in the round hole of industrial rational society.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't believe that everybody needs or wants to like be an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
but I feel like everybody should at least know about it, how it works, what the business is, and all of these things, because we appreciate things so much more if we understand them and we feel them than
Yes.
if we were just to read about them or just kind of look at it from a distance, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I've worked many jobs before, of all kinds. I've worked at McDonald's, at the gas station, as a waiter, as a restaurant, as I worked in the kitchen as well. I worked as a game tester, quality assurance, all of these things, game development, and the one common thing is that it feels like it's always this weird race of just going through the motions, just doing things without really knowing why. And I feel like when people start knowing why, how everything works, and really doing things with purpose, not just for a salary, I think we would all be better off. And it's always my pleasure to help people as much as I can, understanding business, understanding the risks involved, whether or not or when or how they should do it, figuring out what they could do. I actually had a meeting with a guy today because I'm in this group for small YouTubers, and 99% of posts are like self-serving. How do I get views? How do I get subscribers? How do I get monetized? And they don't realize that after you're monetized and you reach those 1,000 subscribers and those 4,000 watch hours, that's when you start earning maybe a few cents per month. And that's when the work really starts, right?
Yes.
And most people, I always try and give them advice for what they should know. And I understand that most of them are not going to take well to it because I'm basically telling them indirectly that what they're doing is wrong. But I decided a while ago that, okay, this will sound a bit rude, but it's probably the best way to explain it. As Robert Kiyosaki says, don't try to teach pigs how to sing. You'll waste your time and annoy the pig.
I thought I was going to need this button, but no.
Yes.
You've insulted people differently, perhaps. There, no, I think.
But when I comment, I mean, I really do want to help. If they can take value in what I'm saying, they will improve. I have no doubts about it, because I can't yet help anybody become an ultra billionaire, but I can at least help them get to the stage where I am.
Yes.
And then from there, maybe they can get another mentor, as I am constantly looking for people who can help me reach the next level, right?
Yeah.
So when I do make those comments, my thought now is, I hope this person hears this and takes this advice to heart. If not, there will be hundreds of people who are going to read this comment section. And if it helps one person, I've done my job. And the guy I had a meeting today was one such person. I believe he looked like he got very good insights. He's going to rethink his business strategy. He has been selling t-shirts. And then I asked him, hey, man, one question. Would you pay what you're charging for your t-shirts? He was like, I'm not sure. I'm like, there you go, man. Figure out how you can provide such a value for what you're offering that you would think it's the right thing for somebody to even go in debt to own your product. And that's when you can really start understanding business. And that's when you can really start, it's kind of like a paradox. The more you obsess about serving people, the more money you're going to get. But the more you obsess about getting money, the less people will want to deal with you.
Yes. Okay. And I think Ubi might be on the same wavelength as us. Best kind of business. Is this crazy business, different kind of business? Let us know your thoughts, Ubi. This is a team effort as usual. If it's anything to do with me and the Good Morning Portugal community, it is a team effort. And I think we are going to be answering a few questions tonight, because some have come in, some issues have been raised. And I do want to address this Portugal property pickle situation, because the most extraordinary range of suggestions have come in from the government. And to me, what was strange about them was how quick it all happened. Things don't normally happen that quickly in Portuguese politics and culture, as far as I'm aware. And this thing has slid through like it was greased with WD-40, and it's caused quite a stir. So I'll address some of that stir as the circumstances allow tonight. But as Vitor says, we're here to serve. So we'll do our best to answer any questions that come in. Thank you for being here, Tabitha.
You'll do your best to answer. I mean, I don't know anything about Portuguese politics. Okay, I'm kind of kidding. But for some weird reason, I do know more about American politics than Portuguese ones. Go figure.
Yes. Well, I think I know a little bit more about Portuguese politics now than I do about British politics. And I still have the political age of a 10-year-old, which might have gone up to a 10-and-a-half-year-old today. When you were talking about a group for small YouTubers, do they have to be under 1.5 meters tall? Is that what a small YouTuber is?
Yes. But since you only have profile pictures there, they can't really verify your actual height. So.
Oh, okay. I think they should have to stand next to a door frame and have their height scratched on the door frame in traditional homesteading style.
Perhaps.
Property, my stressful subject today. Okay, tell us more, Darren. We'll do our best to help you as best we can. We're here, says Tabitha Lindyboom. We love your name, Tabitha Lindyboom. Where is everyone, you say? Well, we're here. You've already said that. We're here. Everyone is here who needs to be here this evening.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yeah. First, Seth is impossible, or Seth impossible. I've been in limbo for a year now, so how can I work or have a business? We will answer that question. And João do Norte is here as well, who I'll see you at 10 for sure, in person, kind of. But if you've got any questions, John, I imagine you'll have observations, John, because it's always great to hear your, João, as you are here in Portugal, of course, always great to hear your erudite observations. Vitor, I know, never a dull moment in American politics, especially today with just Sleepy Joe turning up in the Ukraine today. Hello, Carl and Vitor. And perhaps I shouldn't call him Sleepy Joe. That's a little bit rude, isn't it? But he always seems it, to be fair. I don't know. Have you a comment about Portuguese politics and never a dull moment over there, Vitor?
The Portuguese politics.
No, the American one, the American politics, which you know more about.
So I will say this: a few years ago, particularly when I decided to start taking the real estate business really seriously, I decided to just, you know what? I've been following politics. Like there was this journalist on YouTube that I really liked watching because he, even though he was more left leaning, he would always read the news, and then he would read right wing sources, left wing sources, more centrist sources. He would analyze as much of the information as he could to figure out what was fact, what was like, you know, journalists making up stories or whatever. So you could get a more impartial observation of what was going on. But he would make like 5 videos a day, about 15 to 20 minutes each, and I would watch the whole thing every day.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I was like, you know what? This is not contributing anything to my life. Most of the politics, whether you're on the right, whether you're on the left, whether you don't know where you are and you're just watching the news, 99% of the time it's things that make you furious because it's ridiculous that anything that happens in politics really. So like, hey, you know what? This 1 hour I could be using to maybe learn more about real estate or business or whatever. I could be helping my clients more. And it's not just that 1 hour, but all of those emotions and things that I would get for say, oh, I can't believe this happened in politics, that isn't changing anybody's life. So
very good. An excellent evaluation of the use of time. You've already
been like 2 years now, yeah. So I'm not up to speed anymore. The only thing I see are memes. I'm in some groups that share political memes, and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, but cool.
Well, that's funny. Yes. Yeah. Nobody has any idea what's really going on today. Dark Brandon not hiding in his bunker. Oh, okay. And that's the problem, isn't it? When you have have a little pop at either side of the political divide in America, it does tend to get people wound up. That's not my intention tonight. We've got other things to talk about, like business. I
can say this though, as someone who for the longest time, I made sure to, you know, whether on Facebook or whatever, I would always listen to what the other people were saying, regardless of political affiliation, and try to see things from their point of view. And I'm pretty sure that both Republicans, Democrats, whatever, they agree on 98% of almost every issue. They just disagree a little bit on how to get there. But I can tell it's like they're all speaking different languages. It's like I rarely see people from both sides being able to communicate in a way that either side understands what the other one is saying. It's like they're
well
completely
said.
different languages.
Maybe that's all that needs to be said about American and politics generally, is that human beings do want the same things, don't they? But when it comes to expressing that, they don't half wind each other up, as we've seen from time to time, as you can see every day, if you use Twitter. Very, very erudite. You've given us a lot of value already with your insight. This is how he works, everybody. Vitor Costa with his views on life, politics, possibly the Portuguese property situation. And I think when I do share this with you, Vitor, you will have some things to say from that point of view that you have, that remarkable point of view. Shout out to you, some satisfied customers here for all the valuable aid with getting Mayo all sorted out. That's quite a big claim. You've got Mayo sorted out, have you? Is that nationally or just in the João do Norte household?
So one thing we have been personally doing is we're always on the lookout to connect with all kinds of professionals in all fields so that we can help our clients with everything they will need eventually. We have partnerships with all of the carriers. The one we work with the most is Mel. At the moment, it feels like, it's easier. Of course, I think certain areas maybe it could depend. So if, for example, one carrier doesn't have optic fiber in a location, we can contact with Vodafone or NOS or whatever it is. But it seems like nowadays they all are roughly the same thing. Some are have a bit better benefits, but almost everything is similar, and I think they all share the same infrastructure or whatever. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't know where I'm going with this.
No, I'm not sure where you are either, but suffice to say that you've been very helpful to Sarah as well. Good evening to you, Sarah. Lovely to see you here. Vitor and Maria have been amazing to the tailors as well.
Thank you,
Also
guys.
helps with an accountant. I think I might have found a decent accountant since I last spoke to you, Vitor, and
Really?
I'll have something to say about that. The problem with Portuguese accountants is they don't charge enough, is what I discovered this week, and it made a lot of sense. What was said, it's a bit like your T-shirt guy. Shout out to Paula at Mayo, also great customer service and tremendous patience. Is that in Ponte Lima we're talking about there?
Yes.
All right. So
yeah.
Kelly Garcia is also here, who should be an American superhero detective with a name like that, right? Don't you think? Kelly Garcia, it just sounds like such a cool name, but it's actually it's Raquel from Lighthouse Consulting Undercover. She's blown her cover.
A slight pinch of villain, it seems like.
I think so. A little bit of a top note of villainy there.
Or is that some kind of racism just because it sounds like a foreign name? Okay, I'm gonna be
I
canceled.
certainly hope not, Vitor. Let's go as far as to say that might be a stereotype, but stopping short of that crime there. And I don't know if we...
Okay, I need to say this though, just because I find it, hilarious. One time I saw this kind of post somebody made. I don't know if it was a tweet or whatever it was, but it was basically this guy saying that it's messed up how tolerant a racist community is, because as long as you're being racist, they will like you and and be friends with you. And I'm like, you know what? I guess I can see that happening. I can see that happening.
Of course.
Well, now is the time to disclaim that racism is bad, folks. You shouldn't eat it. So yeah.
Hello, Carl and Vitor. I'm not sure if we gave you a proper greeting, Angel Tubbett, who's with us this evening as well. Fantastic. As is Owen. Hope you've got your Facebook problems sorted out. Gosh, dealing with a corporation, what's that like, Owen? Trying to wrestle your Facebook identity back. Finding a knowledgeable Portuguese accountant is quite a challenge. Yes. I spoke to a very wealthy person in the last few days who has 3 accountants. None of them agree with each other on a multi-million-pound turnover. I mean, that tells you a lot about Portuguese accountancy, I think. You're not surprised to hear that, are you, Vitor?
No, not at all. Also because, I mean, it's one of the hardest people that we find is we found in our experiences. Finding good people to work with can be very complicated. And what I mean by good people, I don't mean good-hearted people. But it's not that easy to find someone who really is committed to their craft and become the best version that they possibly can. Mm-hmm. And even then there's a matter of a generalist versus a specialist, right? So, for example, you could find someone who's a genius accountant for real estate, and he is the guy to go for real estate. But maybe if it comes to other kinds of businesses or financial transactions, maybe is not as knowledgeable. So you would need another professional to guide you there. Now, yes. I can say that the accountant that we're hiring now for a new business, I'm really excited to start working with her, because I've talked to many accountants. She definitely does seem, different. She seems very interested and passionate in what she's doing. In fact, the first time I spoke to her, I went to interview her because I told her I wanted to start a company. I wanted to ask some questions, clarify some doubts. And she spent like the first 10 minutes just going on and on and on about how passionate she is about accounting. and how people don't appreciate accounting for what it really is because they just see it as like a necessary evil. And I'm like, okay, I'm liking where this is going. And then 10, 15 minutes later, she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah, you were saying?
Well, okay, let's talk more about Portuguese accountancy. I obviously did take us down a terrible road here. No, you're wrong. Sorry, we're both wrong, I think, here, Vitor. Clearly, US Republicans, according to you're in trouble when someone starts a sentence with "nope." I think we might have a bit of experience denying here, or personal experience denying here. US Republicans, that'll be all of them, are reveling in their own circular firing squad with their thumbs in their ears. That's quite hard to be in a firing squad with your thumbs in your ears, and their tongues wagging at your facts and reason. That's a summary judgment about a group of people, which is a sort of thing we don't really like here.
I can say that's wrong because I found that almost everybody is like that in almost everything. We're probably doing that right now.
Yes, that's right. Where in your life are you like that, Ubi? But perhaps you would never stoop that low. I don't know, but I would put my hand up to that. I definitely do that at times, and I'm not a US Republican, as far as I'm aware. Although I have been called a far right person by an American who decided never to speak to me again after saying that, which I found.
I've been called both far right and far left, so I guess I'm far middle.
Which are you, Vitor? Come on, man. Which are you? It's time.
I'm just like. So I go by values, right? So I don't care if you're right, if you're left, if you're up, if you're down. I know that everybody has valuable, input and ideas that should be taken into account. And I also believe that everybody has flaws. So I think if we categorize each other, just, okay, if you're this soccer club, then you're always wrong. And if you're this soccer club, you're always right. And I think we should start communicating more and closing ourselves.
With a little bit more
I think that's when problems start, because I don't know who said it, but there's someone who said something like, those who make peaceful, communication or whatever impossible, make violent revolution inevitable or whatever. I don't know who said it. Maybe somebody will find it was some kind of terrorist or something, and I'm going to be associated with them.
Yes,
all kinds of problems.
That will help us decide whether you're right or left tonight. And if you could decide, it would make it much easier for the rest of us to judge you. So if you could work on that throughout the program, that'd be great.
Yeah, but I do believe that problems just start when communication ceases.
Exactly.
I think instead of just going, hey, actually, you're wrong, and this is why you're wrong, it's like, okay, tell me about it. Why do you think that way?
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with anything of they're saying, but hear them out, see why they think the way they do. And then when they're done, ask questions and then maybe offer them your perspective. Okay, so you said you don't agree with this and this because of that. The way I see it is that if we do this, this could happen. And then maybe the other person will be like, you know what? I haven't thought of it that way.
You never know, do you? You never know. But I think this is part of the reason why it was difficult for you to fit in for 27 years. Thinking,
definitely.
Yes,
definitely.
Thinking brilliantly like that is going to get you into a lot of trouble, Vitor. So I suggest you stop it, at least for 10 minutes. I like Portuguese business people who are a calming influence and make me feel more relaxed in my responsibilities to the country as an immigrant. Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? Thank you, Sarah, for that. A calming influence and make me feel more relaxed in my responsibilities to the country as an immigrant. Certainly an accountant and the tax office will help you do that as well. Okay, look, it's nearly 5:30. It's nearly time for the Cockroach coop.
Oh.
Now, Bob and Viv will be here, or certainly Bob will be here at around the 5:30 mark to present a business to us. And you'll all get they're here now. But Bob and Viv, you've peaked a little bit early. Give me a few minutes to just actually address the topic we're meant to be talking about tonight. I think the problem was I went to have a carnival snooze, early evening, and I woke up and I really felt like it was a new day. So bear with me on that. And yes, look, here's the controversy we're looking for. What do you mean about the title Property Grab? That's what I wanted to talk about. We'll do a few minutes of that before we speak to Bob and Viv by way of a bit of a palate cleanser and their new business they're going to present to us at around the halfway mark. My husband is wondering what is going on. Is he normally like that, Tabitha, or is that just because of how we're being this evening? I wonder. Hi, all, and hi, Vitor. Taxi needs to be groomed by a Paula. Also, we need an apartment, cottage, or room in the Minya for May or June. Talk soon, please help. There you go. An order has just come in as well. Carl, what do you mean about the property grab? Okay, let me just go to the Portugal news. Let me just bring you up to speed, if I may. And this is a very fast-changing situation. It's caused quite a stir among Portuguese people who have called António Costa, no relation to Vitor Costa, as far as I'm aware, the most dangerous prime minister.
He's a great guy, though.
Okay, he's a great guy. So not related, but he's a great guy.
Wait. Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you meant António Barbosa. Disregard what I said. Oh, God. Oh.
Okay. So there you go. He's the most dangerous PM in decades. And I use quotation marks there because that's what I heard on the grapevine. And you'll see on the Portugal News front page, the virtual front page. We'll do some scene setting here. We'll talk more about it in the next half hour. But for every one home, what is it? Every one house built for every 9 sold. That's quite an interesting indication as to why the Portuguese government want to do something about the housing situation. And their package is called Mais Habitação. Is that right? More housing is the name of the initiative that's happening. I hope I've got my pronunciation 50% right there. So it's such a, you might be able to understand what I'm
about
saying.
55. Good enough.
55, thank you. And here is the juicy bit now, which I'm going to. Property owners preparing to protest. Owners of local accommodation properties, that's the AL. And this is a bit confusing because you might think local accommodation is where local people live rather than the alojamento local, which is the B&B, the guest house classification here in Portugal. You'll see it outside B&Bs and guest houses. AL, it's a license you need. Are organising a protest. The owners thereof are organising a protest for March the 1st against the measures announced by the government for the sector to face the housing crisis. The action is being called through social networks, and indicates the intention to hold a meeting on March the 1st at 3 p.m. at the main entrance, if you're interested in going, of Feira Internacional de Lisboa, the FIL, where the start of the Bolsa de Turismo, the Lisboa event, will be taking place. Speaking to the Lusa agency, Carla Reis, owner of a local accommodation, an AO, and the promoter of the protest, explained that the choice of date was symbolic and she intends to draw the government's attention to the negative consequences of the measures that are being proposed. This is one of many measures, one of almost 20 measures as part of Mais Habitação. I shouldn't have... Habitação. I shouldn't have stumbled. I shouldn't have paused. I should have just run straight at it. Approved on Thursday by the Council of Ministers, which provides that the issuance of new local accommodation licenses will be prohibited, with the exception of rural accommodation in municipalities in the interior of the country. So, am I understanding this right? And this might be bringing you up to speed, Vitor, but it says that all AL licenses, unless they're in the countryside, are finished, just like the golden visa, which is what's being pushed through Parliament, and they hope will be approved of within the next couple of weeks, I think. So the AL license is taking a bit of a kicking. Is that what you understand, Vitor? Is this new to you?
Actually, that part I have heard about,
right.
the alojamento local, and in a way, I can see it making sense because particularly here in Ponte de Lima, almost, I don't know exactly what percentage, but a big percentage of properties here are now alojamento local. So I can see how that there would be a little bit of, hey, maybe something should be done about it. I don't know if the measures are what should be done or not.
Exactly. But, well, that's the thing, mate. I don't think people, it's a bit like what you were saying about Republicans and Democrats. People see that something needs to be done, but they don't quite know what to do about it. And that's where the furore is here. So if we go to the Portugal Resident now, and we look at what they've described, this came out a little while ago, housing package, an attack on private property, says Investor Group. And there are 6 points of interest. Well, let me give you the background here. The APPII criticizes the government plan for removing confidence from investors. So on the one hand, we've got the AL license that it looks like it's being suspended in the major areas where of interest, of course, for foreign investors. And here, the Portuguese Association of Property Developers and Investors has dubbed the government's leasehold proposal, revealed in a package last night, this was last week, an attack on private property, which has brought the accusation of communism at the most dangerous, allegedly the most dangerous PM in decades, claiming it removes confidence from investors without fixing the housing problem. So there we go. We all agree there's a housing problem, no question, right? How to go about dealing with that is the controversy currently, and we're still working our way through it. Apart from being insufficient, the measures proposed yesterday exclude the creation of more new housing, the most important measure to respond to the crisis, APPII President Hugo Santos Ferreira said in a statement. The association highlights the 6 points of its protest. So here's some more of what people are upset about, or some people are upset about. Housing crisis requires a long-term regime pact, lack of measures and incentives for new construction, lack of measures for young people. So despite there being nearly 20 points, those aren't in there. There's an attack on tourism and foreigners. There's an assault on private property and the end of golden visas. The proposal for compulsory leasing of vacant properties is an attack on private property, says Santos Ferreira, considering that in this case, it will contribute even more to remove investor confidence. What do you make of this then, Vitor? Does this help you understand why people might be a little bit agitated at the moment about this?
I mean, every time there's changes, people will always, it will always be bad for some people. It will be an opportunity for others. Again, I'm kind of weird when it comes to these things. I can understand why people react the way that they do. Me personally, I'm just like, hey, you know what? There are certain things I can't control. Government is definitely one of them. So it's always a matter of, okay, this is happening. What can we do to still thrive and be successful regardless to it?
Oh, well said, sir.
Because it would then always have to do, okay, maybe like that. It will then always have to do with like our way of solving problems, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit of a daredevil. Me personally, if given the option between being 100% commission or having a job where I had, consistent, stable income, that's what I did. I'm unemployed every day. I prefer commission. I prefer taking higher risks, but having other things. Other people prefer being in really bad circumstances, but knowing that every single month they will receive certain amount of income. And regardless of whether you're on one side or the other, it's very easy for people to just grow accustomed to what they're doing. So you start investing in a thing, right? Have alojamentos locais, and you go on and keep on doing that, and that's your source of income. And then rules change and you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You already had like that momentum going, and now you won't be able to. And so, protesting is the easiest thing to do. I mean, personally, I just prefer to shift my efforts into something that I can control. And I don't know.
Is that a very Portuguese sentiment, do you think, to do that, to adapt? That thing of not getting too stressed about what you can't change and putting your body and soul into what you can change.
No, I feel like it's not. I don't know many common that would be like this. It seems like protesting would be the go-to for most people, because they want the government to do this and to do that and to take care of them, and it's a government that should raise the minimum wage. And things about that nature, which would be a whole other conversation in itself.
Don't start that up. Do not start that up right now, because we're going to bring Bob on in just a moment. For now, we just have to wait for the actual laws, not just the PowerPoint. And this is what upset people a bit. Thank you for being here, 970 Pedro, who I assume is a Portuguese person, and contributed earlier. No more new licenses is part of the problem here, or for some people anyway. On that note, Tabitha says, I've seen whole villages die in Norfolk, UK, because of vacation homes and Airbnbs. Absolutely, I've seen that as well. It's part of the reason I moved to Portugal. You can't buy anywhere in those places. So there's clearly a problem. What to do about it, I guess, is something we could address tonight. And yes, PowerPoint was how it was delivered, this multiple point plan for dealing with the housing problem in Portugal. People are upset that it's just a PowerPoint of proposals, some of them quite controversial. And then the president, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, weighed in saying, look, it's like a melon. We won't know what it's like until we've cut into it, which is a fantastic metaphor. Exactly, Vitor, how to succeed no matter what is going on is the way to move forward. Now, we can take that, can't we, as our takeaway this evening in life and in business. But now... Is that a good enough entry for you, Bob and Viv? or Bob in this case.
That's great. Well, here's Viv too. We're both here.
You get the
That's excellent entry, because I woke up early this morning thinking about all this project we're working on, and yeah, I need a wake up call. So that rooster was just great.
Yeah. Perfect. It heralds. Hello, Viv. Lovely to see you. May I say how lovely you're looking this evening? And the Barcelo cockerel heralds the cockerel's coop, which is our Dragon's Den type feature. I'm not sure if we're going to get ourselves in trouble with this or be told we're fired by somebody. But the cockerel's coop is like the Good Morning Portugal Business Club Dragon's Den, whereby people come to the show and share a business idea that they would like to develop, probably in Portugal, and they will take the counsel of our panel here this evening, made up of Vitor Costa and his incredible mind, which has taken at least 27 years to develop, as well as the people in the comments and chat as well. Vitor, you look suddenly very serious. What's happening?
I'm shy.
He's shy suddenly. Okay, you know that's not true, don't you, Bob and Viv? You've met before, of course.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
Okay, let me put you right at the top of the screen where you belong and tell us about this business idea. There's no time limit exactly. We would like to return, and you may join us, of course, to talk about the Mais Habitação situation in Portugal, because you know, you may have an interest in that, coming to Portugal and looking at what's going on there. But let's focus on you and your new business. So please tell us all about it.
Well, what we have come to realize, basically through a friend of ours, Jennifer Reed, has held safaris in Africa for years. And on her first or second visit to Portugal, she made 3 trips here before moving. She said, what people like me need is some way that we could small group travel across the country and get a broad picture from one end to the other, and meet with immigrants as we're doing it, get some history, some culture, get a feel for what the different areas are like. And then we could rent a car and go back to wherever we started or wherever we were most interested. And so we've been kicking that around for several months now. And we've gotten to the point where we have enough concepts together, we're developing contacts, and it's something we kind of are curious if a small group like 4 to 6 at a time, country in a broad view would be something that would interest people.
Okay, so essentially a culture safari, and the big game in question here would be the big game of a new life in Portugal.
Yes.
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 Absolutely. In fact, that's funny because we just touched on, we were with John and Pam and Owen a little bit earlier, and Jennifer today, and that idea of a safari came up.
Portugal Safari.
Portugal Safari. The name we're looking at so far is Portugal Experience, Examine Your Move.
Yes. Yes,
so
very good.
Yeah, the whole concept is to be giving a very good picture, the opportunity to talk to people who have made the move in different locations across the country, probably a different place pretty much every night for a week or so. Possibly one of the contacts we've made is with Salazar, Portugal, who works with all of the manor houses. Several of them are available to rent. You get to stay with the family. You get to learn some of the history, and that's another one of the aspects that we're looking at. If we could tie that into the process, where there'd be a night or two at an old historical family-owned manor house, that would just broaden the cultural experience a whole lot and give a much bigger idea of the country itself. Beautiful.
And who is it aimed at, ideally?
This would be aimed at people who are considering the move. James Hawley and I have talked about this quite a bit.
Yeah.
Viv and I, James, and a few others make the move without ever having been to the country.
Yeah.
But as we've networked with Vitor a lot and gotten to know a whole lot of immigrants in the process who have made the move, most of them by visiting, knowing what the big picture is difficult. And so if we can give them a broad, like say, a broad view and answer questions along the way, help them meet agents like Vitor and others across the country as we go, help them meet, we've talked with boots on the ground as maybe one of our contacts on the way, other people that are helping with relocation. Try to just build as networked an experience as possible to give as broad a picture as possible.
Okay, first thoughts, Vitor, who went out of focus for a moment, but he's back.
Hello. I'm not jealous. 100%. Go for it.
You don't want to do it, but you're okay if somebody tries, huh?
You want to go with it?
Oh, we'll be partnering up for sure, because that's, lightly touching up on the conversation about business. This is what I believe it's all about. It's everybody helping each other. If you have the same business that I do, I'll help you grow and become even better at your craft.
Okay. And what's required here, Bob and Viv? Are you looking for investment? Are you looking for a bit of market research? I mean, what is this going to cost people? I mean, that'll be a very primary concern for people, won't it? And like Vitor was saying about his friend with a t-shirt, it doesn't really matter how much it costs, really, as long as it seems like value. So what is the value package? What was the investment?
We don't have all of that put together yet. That's one of the reasons we're investigating, like tonight for this group. What would be the value? We're looking at it for double occupancy, discounted versus single person.
Everything will be covered. We're thinking about around $2,000 a person, and everything will be covered. They won't have to do a thing. They won't have to drive or think about anything. The meals will be covered, hotels, everything.
Okay, and by the end, so that's the investment, and you would be you'd be picked up at the airport and dropped back off at the airport at the end, and in between you'd have the most amazing time where all your cares and needs are looked after, and you'll have a deep immersion in Portuguese culture, such that you can decide whether this is the place for you to live in.
Right.
Absolutely.
And we will be honest with them about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We don't want to sugarcoat anything or scare them away, but I think everybody needs to know the good and the bad of wherever they're moving to. Yeah. And us coming here with no trip was fine for us. It was the right thing, and we don't regret it at all. But we don't think it's the right move for most people. They need to come and see it first. Yeah. So
one of the things that is driving it, and it's going to be driving. We are actually, thanks to your help, Carl. We have the initial setup of a YouTube page, Bob and Viv in Portugal. I plan to start posting there this week. We also have the bobvivpt@gmail.com email is set up for people to reach out to us. So in a way, it's a fishing expedition, but we're very close to being able to start reeling things in and have the pieces of the puzzle together. Another one of the driving things, being a person that comes out of remodeling and doing all my own repair work over the years, over my entire life, and knowing people, just hearing questions all the time we get about different things. For example, wall outlets. We highly recommend, and I'll do a demonstration, that you hold the outlet when you pull the plug out, or you might get the whole thing. And it's because
1,000%. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It happens. It's happened in multiple outlets where we live. Things like the first time I peeked into an attic and I could see daylight outside because of the tile roofs and no insulation. What's that?
Over 50% of Portuguese homes are landlord DIY projects.
Yeah, and even when you rent them, things like we're talking with Vitor and going over reviewing some things with a rental agreement that has the word you are responsible for maintenance. That needs to be spelled out because it means something different to someone from the United States, I think also Canada, than it does to the Portuguese mind who owns the house. We just replaced our own water heater. So there are many, many aspects. Using the vacuum cleaner, we have a 12-meter long hall probably, and not a single outlet in the whole thing, you know?
Not at all.
So
Hard to plug it in.
So the YouTube channel will be to bring recognition to what we're doing with the tours for sure, but also we want to give the reality of it. This isn't where you left, most likely. It's significantly different, and we're actually, the more we talk to folks, going to encourage, spend a week with us and plan 2 more, if at all possible.
Yeah.
Particularly if you want to meet different people on rentals, if you want to spend more than 1 day in a village, but this will give a broad picture before you're committed. Because some people, frankly, some may decide not to commit.
Yes.
Others will say after the experience, meeting the people, seeing the country, experiencing the history, they might say, man, we're all in. I don't care what I have to adjust, which was how we approached it.
Yeah, that's how we approached it.
Yeah.
We didn't care what we had to adjust to. We could.
Yeah.
Okay, we have questions coming in. Who decides what is good or bad? I'm not sure you're telling people what is good or bad, are you? You're giving them a chance to find out for themselves.
We're just telling you how it is. If it's good or bad for you, that's fine.
Yeah.
But no, we're just telling people how it is and not saying, you know, it's wonderful here. It's only wonderful here. It's not always wonderful here. It's most of the time it is, but not always.
Yeah.
There are different things here and people need to be aware of it. But we're not saying anything's good or bad. It's the way you look at it.
Yeah.
I think what you meant is that you're going to point out not only the things you like, but also the ones that you found a challenge and not just sugarcoat everything.
Or an adjustment to the different heating systems, the different approach to many, many things relative to home habitation.
Yep. Tabitha says use a broom on that long hallway, which is probably what they used to do. Like not like Harry Potter, like a proper Portuguese grandma. I'd love to live for a week with a Portuguese family, so it'll be kind of like an exchange trip, won't it? But of course, it will be great to have you as the added value of people who've already made that journey. Whereas I guess if you lived with a Portuguese family, you might not get. I mean, you'd have a real immersion, but you might not necessarily get the migrant insight from that equation. But there's a spin-off. If you could organise that for Tabitha, you're already quids in or euros in or dollars in.
Well, that's already done through Solaris Portugal.
Yeah.
They arrange those stays in manor homes.
Yeah.
And some of them are working locations where you come and spend a minimum of 3 days and you're helping with the chores or with the grave
4 days,
harvest.
3 or 4 hours a day, you help out around the place in exchange for your room and board. So it's
excellent
those
stuff.
are already out there if they want to do that.
Through
Very
Solaris.
good, Tabitha. That's for you. Something that comes to mind that you were saying, Vitor, from last week. $2,000 is it? Would it be? Is a possible ticket?
Yes.
Now, Vitor said something very erudite, as he does, obviously, in this show that we're doing every week at 9 o'clock Portuguese time, about when you're buying professional services. I think it was coaching, and some expensive coaching is not expensive necessarily when the person who's delivering it to you has spent thousands, hundreds of thousands, possibly gaining their experience. One way of framing the investment, Bob and Viv, might be to look at how costly it would be to come to Portugal and then go home again, having not got to grips with it. Has anyone estimated that?
Not that I know of, and we know several people that have gone back now.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine doing all of this and at the end of 8 or 9 months saying I'm going home. I can't imagine what they must lose in the process. It's mind-boggling.
So set against that €2,000. at the very worst, would be a fantastic holiday.
Absolutely. That's the worst it can be. Yeah.
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 But the idea is to give folks information firsthand from other people who have done the very same thing they're thinking about.
Yes.
And I mean, it's examples like the dampness that particularly in that 3 months of rain, which is unusual, but it happened this year, as we all know, is pervasive. And we know folks that had managed for several months without a dehumidifier. In fact, we had.
Yeah.
And boy, all of a sudden we realized it was a must in this house. And most people we know, you got to have one. And so it's just all kinds of things that are part of the picture. And it's the idea of you could spend a week or 2 weeks and not learn what it's like to go to the grocery store, to find things at the pharmacy, to negotiate traffic in totally unfamiliar situations. We're recommending people get used to a stick shift before they come, because if they don't know a standard transmission, they're going to have a hard time finding a car. And we know people that it can become the breaking point of I can't do this. So the idea, and we'll take feedback on pricing too, absolutely. The idea is to take that surprise out of the picture, so an educated decision could be made. That's why we're saying examine your move, because a D7 is a whole lot of work, and in order to know what you're doing, it's worth an investment. And we've, like I say, we know people have made 2 and 3 trips before they ever come, and even then, it can still be a real adjustment.
They go back. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for presenting the idea. For the time being, will you stay with us to chat a bit more about this housing situation, the Portugal Property Pickle? I think we what we'll do, can we please use a marking system now? Are we going to give this idea? And we do need the details. That's really crucial. If you could answer Tabitha's question. If you do, pop that in the private chat, folks. I'll make sure everybody's got a connection to you. But Vitor, is it a pastel de nata or chicken cooked in its own blood for you, this idea?
I mean, I just ate chicken cooked in its own blood.
Oh dear, sorry. Okay, what's the best way to? What's the Portuguese? What would be 5 out of 5 in terms of Portuguese cuisine, and a 1 out of 5 in terms of Portuguese cuisine? I've got
it really depends on personal preference.
Oh,
but,
come on, help me out here.
The number one dish, which probably not for health reasons, but for tastiness, I would have to go with the francesinha.
Okay, so francesinha being the best response to the idea, and the worst for you?
Oof, I mean, that would be relative. There are so many dishes I haven't even tried. So.
I was trying to come up with a simplified system, and you're not helping me here. So what we'll do with for the foreigners watching, is it a pastel de nata of an idea, or is it a chicken cooked in its own blood idea? For me, it's a pastel de nata idea. For you, Vitor?
Yes, it's a pastel de nata. Alternatively, it can be gluten-free and dairy-free if that's your. So I think it would work for everyone, because I mean it's as you're saying, like it's what is that worth for people, and a lot of people value the most is that reassurance that everything is going to be okay, and a lot of the work that I do is just that. Because I mean, buying and selling a home or renting or whatever, anybody can do the mechanical things, but it's a whole process around it. And so, yeah, I mean, I've been talking to them about that too, and I believe it was their initiative. And I did meet Jen as well, and she did mention that to me as well. But it's not something that I can see me doing directly. But I'm super excited that they're doing something like this, because it will help us help other people. Like, hey, I could find them clients as well. And the clients that do come to me, hey, here's another extra service for you guys. so that then they can really explore Portugal.
Sorry, I didn't realize you were going to add something. I beg your pardon. But generally speaking, applause for your idea this morning. Pastel Donato of an idea. So thank you very much. Stick around, Bob and Viv, and do keep us up to date with what's going on. And please put the contact details in the private chat so that I can stick them on the screen. Antonio Barbosa, let's do a few more minutes then on this mais habitation. My only concern is the message, recent declarations from the government that are picked up by the foreign press. Yes, the golden visa, for example. Portugal is a brand that earned its confidence and trust with the world, and that will not go away. Governments come and go, but the country will continue to grow. Viva Portugal! Thank you for being here, António Barbosa, not António Costa, this evening. And then going back in the last few minutes here, I hope Vitor and Bob and Viv, you'll stick around for the Portugal Club, which is our very special exclusive meeting at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday evening. It's on this same link, folks, so you're there. You're there anyway. But the government's housing blueprint without wings to fly. Let's bring that onto the screen now. This is what Portugal resident is saying. I think this was today's news about this very issue of the Portugal Property Pickle. There they are, with the ministers and the Prime Minister there, who have some skin in this game. Mais habitation, more housing. Was it all just a case of moving the deck chairs as the absolute majority? What else does it say? I don't need my glasses. As the absolute majority takes on yet more water. So it is pointing to a little bit of a political collapse, possibly, as well as what they're trying to push through here with this blueprint, which someone has said, and we'll find out now, has without wings to fly. It doesn't have wings to fly. Criticism from those with even no axes to grind amplifies. Excellent imagery. I think Natasha Don is this over in the Portugal resident. Yes, it is. The uproar unleashed by the government's mais habitation, more housing proposals, comes from across the board, not simply from sectors and businesses with their own particular axes to grind. Tabloid Correio do Manhã publishes a couple of opinion pieces from journalist directors of the paper today. Neither of them the least bit hopeful that the plan can work. Oh dear. Indeed, one of the articles from executive director Paulo João Santos runs with the title No Wings to Fly and explains the plan to resolve the lack of houses to rent was drawn up without foundations. Any engineer or building foreman knows that to construct anything, one needs to study the ground and see if it's possible. It is a given that one cannot start with a roof, but the government seems to think this is the way forwards. There is no need to open the melon, going back to the president's analogy with this, to conclude that this one isn't a good one. A large part of what is laid out won't leave the drawing board, and it is simply unworkable. Final comment on this then. The greatest failing of the plan is the fact that it has been elaborated with no previous study. How many houses are there in the rental sector? Where are they? What are the necessities? Who owns them? How long will state support of families and benefits to landlords last? When will these new measures begin? The list of questions is extensive. We could include twice or three times this number. What is impossible to understand is how anyone can move forwards with the projects without having a single answer. However noble the objectives may be, and we can all agree on that, I think, and no one questions the need for intervention in the rental sector. A large part of this plan is condemned to failure. And whose peregrine idea was it for the state to occupy vacant properties? That's the one where I was referring to a property grab. There is an idea that the government will seize properties to rent out and sort this out. And we have Yuriko or Yuriso Mota joining us. Hi, Colin friends. Thank you for being here this evening, which has prompted comments such as, you will own nothing and be happy. This is relating to our video that's gone out that's very popular with government seizing property. Yay, thank you. Portugal, it's like the Wicked Witch is dead. Portugal visa, the golden visa is dead. And it's a political totem, isn't it, the golden visa? Depending on your politics, you might see it as a great idea that it's been killed off. Sue Bowman is one of those. And kind everyone, it's a good change for Portugal. Golden visa worked, but not sustainable. Interesting ideas there as we come up to 10 o'clock. Final words from all of us here. Those will be mine, actually. And this debate will continue. We'll be talking about it in the morning on the show with Bobby O'Reilly and the doc, our resident socialist from Bloc Esquerda, and with his axe to grind. We know what axe he grinds once a month. So I'm sure Doc will have some interesting things to say, as will Bobby O'Reilly, a property developer here in Portugal of some standing. So that'll be an interesting melange of ideas tomorrow. What do you think when you hear what I'm reading out tonight, Bob and Viv?
It's a real problem. I mean, we had a terrible time finding a rental, and it's a terrible problem. But it scares me to death at the thought the state can go in and take personal property. That's vacant or not. That's frightening.
Yeah. But what about you, Bob?
Well, Viv's tired of hearing me say this. We have a friend who sits on the Cherokee Nation Council, and he said that every decision they make is considered. Carl, we were talking about this last week. Is considered to the seventh generation, and it's kind of like the decision a while back to when it wasn't government, but it was Millennium Bank said, "Oh, we're not opening any new foreign bank accounts." Just bang, and this government idea to me strikes me the same way. Is it just does not appear to be thought out, and the ramifications are huge.
Yep, well said. Well said. Certainly, not many politicians think seven generations said 7 weeks, 7 months, 7 years if you're really lucky. I would say so. Bob and Viv, thank you so much for being here tonight. Please stick around because we've got some people who want to meet you in just a moment. Vitor Costa, I'm sure you'll have an interesting take on this. What is it, Vitor?
Yep. So the idea that I had, I think we reviewed this, I don't know if it was a few weeks or a few months ago, I'm not too sure, but I remember reading something about how the government could basically, if you have a vacant house, they could tell you, hey, we can add your house to the rental program we have for people. We would pay you X amount per month for this house. And the idea I had is that they would be able to either accept or reject the idea. Now, I really don't like the idea of forcing it, and that just more power to the government to me is a bad idea, because I don't trust them in managing things very well, and but that's another conversation in itself.
Okay, thank you so much, Vitor. We'll continue our conversation of this around this.
One thing I can say though is that if alojamentos locais could be used as like a primary residency for, okay, you could have an alojamento local, but you can also rent it out as like long-term rental for someone. I could see that making sense. Them maybe changing things that way, but yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing. It's politics.
This will run and run. This will run and run. We'll talk about it in the morning, and we'll continue to talk about it as more news comes out. It's not passed as law yet. It is a proposal, and it's already ruffled a few feathers. We shall keep an eye on it, of course, because it's very important. I think not necessarily directly. You might not want an AL license. You might not be unhappy about the golden visa going, but it's indicative of other social situations, I think, and direction of travel for anyone thinking of Portugal as a country to live in. So we'll keep our eye on it. One more question. Do you need more hot spice, Bob and Viv?
Definitely.
Definitely. Okay. So I'm glad we got that in.
It's we can't see when we're in StreamYard, we can't see the chat. I was just pulling it up on the phone to see if I could answer chat on the phone.
So yes, please, to the hot sauce or hot spice. A great solution, Bob and Viv, and could be a helpful cooperative service to a lot of fledgling travellers. So nice to see you here. Thank you for that feedback. What was the name of the company for Tabitha that does the homestays?
Portugal Experience.
And
Examine your move.
Okay, and the other one that you mentioned where you can stay with a Portuguese family?
That's
part of it. That's Solaris. Yeah.
Solaris, Portugal. If you go online and look up Solares, Portugal, you can investigate staying with Portuguese historical families here near Ponte Lima. The count as he is known, his family has held this property for since it was originally deeded into 1300s.
Wow, excellent stuff. Okay, there you go. That's for Tabitha. Sorry, Vic, go on.
Well, on our trip, it'll be for one night. It won't be for the whole week.
Yeah.
It'll just be one night.
All right, they're not taking property. Okay, everyone can relax. They will pay rent to the owners and rent it to people that need it, and after negotiation with the owners. Thank you.
As long as the owners agree, I'm good with it.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for being here, Pedro. I really appreciate that. We'll have a little bit of a jingle now to denote the end of the show. And stick around, Bob and Viv and Vitor, if you will. And see you next week for the Portugal Business Club, which is finding its feet and having a lot of fun in the process. See you at 9 on a Tuesday evening. Ciao, ciao for now.
Bye.
That wasn't the right jingle, but it was nice to see John's face, wasn't it? The right one is this one.
That's quick.
Ciao.